boy. Well,
Woo!
we are here. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 93 of My Cup of Tea. Evan.
Is this the last of the score you have on here, buddy?
Oh, it might be. What's that? Is that the track All Gone?
Oh,
no.
We're not going to get copyrighted, right? We're good? We're good?
Somehow video game music ain't that bad, so I think we're good. But
wow, we made it, buddy. We made it to the end.
We made it. Bad adaptation, not enough clickers.
Awful.
Just, a lot of filler.
The pacing. It was rushed. I tell you.
It was rushed, and yet we got, spending too much time with shit that wasn't in the game, and just... Nah. And ladies and gentlemen, this was, I think, the best video game adaptation, and beyond that, one of the best seasons of TV I've experienced.
Wow, that is high praise.
Am I wrong?
Not exactly. I thought it was fine. No, I'm kidding. I loved this. I loved this first season. It'll be like a strong, 9.5 out of 10. Should I go 10 out of 10? I don't know. I didn't want to go full 10 out of 10 out the gate. There are certain shows that I go full 10 out of 10, like Watchmen season 1. I was like, oh shit, like that was mind blowing for me. But yeah, this was a super strong season in terms of like the expansions, the changes, in this finale, the emotional payoff of it all was very strong. And there's a lot of, it did what I love about the game. That's the most important part for me. I love this game so much. My favorite game of all time. And what I love the most about the game is, like, despite all the action, it was like those small moments for me where Joel and Ellie are in the cabin, the giraffe scene, the ending, the beginning prologue. Like, a lot of these big set pieces or emotional payoffs, emotional moments, were so impactful for me in the game. Despite all the gameplay is great. I love the gameplay. It makes it so replayable, the gameplay. But I come back, especially for the gameplay, but also for the story, to get like my heart broken and absorbed, whatever the good positive part about your heart is, whatever. I want to feel that euphoria again and again, and that's what I felt watching this first season. There was a lot of great changes that I loved, and the complexity too. So many delicious, fantastic writing on stage here with the parallels, the dialogue, the interactions. I loved this first season so much, and they made me even more excited for, seasons 2, 3, whatever they have going for us.
3, 4, maybe 5.
Maybe 5, yeah.
Well, we got plenty to cover today, not just the finale, but we're going to give a bit of a retrospective on the season as a whole, and, what we could expect for the future.
I agree. Where do you want to start?
I
guess let's start with this. Yeah, let's just cover this finale.
Yeah.
I took some notes. Got to pull the old Samsung out here. I loved this finale. I was, we expected it, the whole Ashley Johnson of it all. And the way they brought her back, or brought her about, was very awesome, emotional, sad. It was crazy. Beautiful performance from Ashley Johnson. She's good in everything. Ashley Johnson voiced Ellie in the game, of course. People would recognize the voice if they watched the show.
Right.
But she voiced Ellie in the game. They brought her back to play Anna, Ellie's mom, who was not in the game, part 1 or part 2.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, for everybody watching, this will be a spoiler podcast for part 1, of course, and part 2. So everything up to part 1 and part 2 will be spoilers, and we might cover it in terms of the parallels that we see in this finale and what's to come. But yeah, I love the whole prologue here. This show in general has done a stellar job at creating and crafting a lot of these cold opens. I don't even want to say cold. It's not really cold. It's pretty hot open with her really running from the woods in danger.
The results always feel cold, I'd say.
That's a good point. But yeah, I adored this first scene. We see Anna coming out of the woods. desperation, she is pregnant with Ellie at the time, and she runs into this abandoned house in the middle of nowhere, close to like Courage the Cowardly Dog, if you want to make that comparison.
Could be a certain
and-
farmhouse from a certain game.
Oh, you think so?
Nah, I mean, just it looks similar. I don't think
It looks
is,
similar.
but...
No, yeah. I thought that too.
Mm-hmm.
Nathan, of course, is talking about the ranch, the sheep ranch, at the end of part 2.
Right.
Another little cabin in the woods, one could say.
Mhm.
But I think, I thought it was different. You know, the structure is different, but you know, it could have a parallel. It could have a just similarity. But either way, this had a much darker intent, where we see Anna run up to the top of the mansion, and then unfortunately the runner, though not even a clicker at this point, it's a runner that's been following her. I'm like, Jesus Christ, this runner is insane. And that's the scariest part about runners and clickers. If that was a clicker, I think she would have been fine. You know, runners and clickers have different strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
Clickers they can't see. It's all echolocation, Morbius. So if you run, I mean, at least in the game, if you run far enough away from it, they'll lose track and sight of you, obviously. But this one like ran all the way through the fields, into the house, up the stairs, through the door, and charged it. I'm like, oh my God, like, come on.
The living manifestation of destiny, if you will.
Oh boy. So yeah, it was hard to watch. It was a
I
brutal
was-
scene.
Yeah, just experiencing this opening. I
Mhm.
mean, I was bawling. I was bawling like a
course you were.
baby. I was bawling like a newborn Ellie.
Wow.
Because it's just I mean, if you're just like a casual viewer, you haven't played the game, you just be like, you know, on the surface, like, oh wow, that's Ellie's birth. That's cool. But you know, us who played the game, we're like, oh my God, that is Ashley Johnson. That is Ellie giving birth to the new Ellie in like the most poetic passing of the torch I have ever seen.
Big time. Yeah.
So good.
It was a huge symbolic passing of the torch where like, and I think Ashley talked about this in the podcast where she's like, yeah, this is a passing of the torch in terms of my interpretation of Ellie going to Bella's interpretation of Ellie. Like they're slightly different, but you know, they both embody Ellie in unique ways. And yeah, she makes a comment on the podcast how she says like, you're so tough. Before Ellie has even done anything, she calls the baby tough.
Yeah.
Because of course
tell him, Ellie.
Yeah, you fucking tell him. Because you know, during the scuffle, she gets bit, but then she kills the she kills the runner immediately afterwards. And man, there's a lot here to dig into in terms of symbolically how this encapsulates like a lot of the seasons in the arcs and what we see. Because even before Marlene arrives, this is a dark moment. Because I think as a mother, as a maternal figure, you're only going to get like a couple hours with her. And Craig made that point in the podcast where it's like, it's so sad. Ellie, I mean, Anna is only going to get like a couple of hours, maybe a day at most, to be with her child. She's not going to be able to see it live, see it prosper, to see it grow, which is so sad. The show... but it's also very loving. Like she didn't sacrifice herself, but she was willing to like, you know, do everything she can to protect her child. And even in her last moment, she's telling Marlene what to do with her child. It was just so, man, I was blown away by this. Because again, this is all brand new to the game. This was never in the game. I think Neil mentioned how he had this idea and he was going to do like a live action short and like put this online or put this in the game or something like that, which was a cool idea. Never came to fruition, but you know, with the advent of the TV show, they were able to implement it in the finale, and they always knew they were going to do it in the finale. And I think it was genius to put it in the finale because I think as a viewer, you want that question wavering. Like, are they ever going to answer how Ellie was immune? Are they ever going to give us like what happened to Ellie in the beginning? They mentioned her mom in chapter 1. But are they really going to tell us the end of chapter 9, like what's really going on here with Ellie? And they kind of do here, as Anna kills the clicker. She looks down. The baby was born. Umbilical cord still attached, but she's still bit.
Yeah.
So we'll get to the lie in a second, but she cuts the umbilical cord afterwards. And then, like, that's when she says, "You're so tough," with the baby and everything like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's symbolic. I made this connection as soon as I watched the episode. I was like, damn, like, it's so sad because she's failing as a protector, really. And we mentioned this a lot throughout the season, where Joel's failing to protect Tess, to protect Ellie, to protect a number of different people in his life. Sarah, of course. And just like Joel, Anna's unable to protect Ellie. She saves Ellie, of course, from the runner/clicker.
Yeah.
But she fails to, like, stay there with her, protect her. Like, she was in a very dire, dangerous situation. She has to give her away because she failed. She's not going to be able to live with her anymore, which is just so heartbreaking and sad and depressing. But yeah, in general, the whole first scene with Anna, with Ashley Johnson, just incredible. I wasn't bawling, but I was just like, wow. I was more in shock about how, like, I was trying to, like, absorb everything that was happening. Because it was a lot, and I was surprised. And again, Nathan, we mentioned this a lot in the podcast, but we had 43 minutes, and they added, like, what, a 5 to 7 minute sequence here with Ellie and Marlene and Anna, which I knew they would be able to accomplish. I knew the last chapter, we're not getting the whole clickers under the tunnels, all the BS. Like, do the minimal as the least you can do to adequately adapt the series, the game.
Yeah.
And I think they did that in spades in this finale. I think everything worked emotionally. You got the big beats across the board. And for me, it was successful. And then later on, Marlene comes. Marlene comes up the steps. Where were you earlier? But we don't know. I think Marlene says, like, there was, like, some kind of checkpoint, right? Something like that.
I think so.
Where it's like, I'm sorry we couldn't make it to the checkpoint in time. And it's like, it's okay. And we quickly realized Anna and Marlene have some kind of history here. They've been friends for quite some time. What do you think about this whole? What do you think about this whole Marlene scene?
I thought it was pretty powerful, dude. It really, like, showcased, like, obviously the whole time we really know Marlene. We know Marlene, leader of the Fireflies, and even here, she still is, but we do see that little, like, look underneath of just, like, Marlene is a real person too. She grew up, she has feelings, whether she hides them or not. And we basically see, it feels like quite a bit of mirroring of Ellie and Riley in a sense of just their lifelong friendship. We get that here, self-admitted by Marlene herself.
Yeah.
And even when, Anna has to make the impossible request of a friend to kill her, like, at first she's like, no, I can't do it. I won't.
Oh, God.
Something that you think Marlene, of all people, would not hesitate with. And eventually she does come around in very, blunt and relentless way. But at first, yeah, she can't do that. And just the idea of passing on this child to her, and it was great that what they were bringing up on the podcast too, just the idea of, like, look, this whole situation is fucked. I know who you are. I know you are not the person who can raise this child, but God damn it, because we're friends, I know you're not going to let this child of mine die. So I need you to find somebody. If it's you, great. If not, I know you will find someone who is worthy to do so.
Exactly. Beautifully said. Yeah, there's so many great moments here. And I think to start off, I think Marlene, I think we predicted this, by the way, in terms of, like, we knew Anna's mom, or Anna's mom. We knew Anna scene was coming up in this episode, and I figured we'd get Marlene's beginning here. Because in the game, as a player, you're playing in this, 13-hour game. You see Marlene in chapter 1 in Boston QZ, and she's gone. She disappears from your point of view, your kind of sight, for 13 hours. And you get to the end of the game, and Marlene is giving you this choice, and as a player, depending on the kind of player you are, you're immediately antagonistic towards Marlene, and you're similar to Joel in that, like, I would kill everybody in this hospital. We don't really consider Marlene's choices until we get part 2, where you can get to dig more into Marlene perspective. With the first part of chapter 2, of part 2, where Marlene's talking with the doctor, John. I think I keep saying John. I hope Abby's father's name is John.
It's Richard or something.
It's watch it be Richard. I keep saying John. John Doe. But either way, I thought it was important to get Marlene's side here at the beginning of the story to really understand, for the audience, not even the player, like the audience in this series, to really sympathize, or at least understand. You don't have to sympathize, but you can understand and see visually what Marlene was going through at this period in time.
Yeah.
As like much you said,
as much as we see, like, you know, Marlene have to be like very like cold, you know, a lot of people, and myself included, probably at least on my first playthrough of the game, was thinking like, oh my god, she's just like sending this child off to be dissected. Like, Jesus, like, at least like talk to her about it. But you know, we see in her eyes and like in her voice, based on, you know, after watching the opening, that it is impactful to her. It is a hard decision. She has to break a promise that she made to her dying friend of keeping her safe.
Exactly. And that's a big point there, to keep her safe, to keep Ellie safe. Marlene, just like Joel, is a protector. But there's a difference in how they are protecting people. I compare Marlene to somebody like Tess, or somebody like Frank, right? Where their love is open. They care more about the worldview. They still do care about their individuals that are sacred in their life. Tess really cared for Joel. Frank really cared for Bill. But where Frank wanted to paint the neighborhood, right? Bill didn't really care about that. Tess wanted to, you know, she had more faith in the world, and Ellie is a curer than Joel did, even though they did care about their individual loved ones. Marlene's the same way. She cares about Ellie, but she cares about the world. She cares about the Fireflies and what they can accomplish, more so than Ellie, and more so than Anna at this moment. So that's why she has to be the one to kill Anna. And she says she can't, but you know, her core being is to protect the people close to her. And Anna's about to turn. You got to kill Anna. Anna's a friend. It has to be you. And we'll get to the Ellie and Riley stuff, because I don't know if that's new. Not many people are talking about it, so maybe it's not new. In terms of Ellie being the one to kill Riley, I had that question. I was like, maybe it was in the finale of Last of Us, but whenever I play the finale of Last of Us, I'm so in my own head. I don't really take in a lot of the dialogue because it's so emotional. But Ellie does kind of confirm at the end of on the mountaintop, that she did kill Riley. But Marlene is similar to Ellie in the sense that, like, she had that burden placed from the jump of having to care for Ellie, and she cares in her own different way, but she had a burden of caring for Ellie, and had to be brought about in certain ways. It had to be brought about in like this selfish / non-selfish way. And similar to how Ellie says it can't all be for nothing at the end. Marlene is also very similar, where it's like, I had to kill Anna. I had to take care of Ellie. It can't all be for nothing. Even if I have to kill Ellie, and I'm kind of losing my role as a protector in that sense, at the end, it's still such an important decision for the world, and I have to do what I have to do. So she's still protecting. It's just like, unfortunately, she's not protecting Ellie at the end. But again, getting that whole scene at the beginning, seeing her really care for Ellie, being there at her birth, we really get the weight of that decision more so than what we had in the game. Which, again, a big expansion that adds a lot of character to Marlene and to the series as a whole.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Also, Anna lies, right? Anna lies to Marlene, saying like,
Yes.
Protect Ellie. I cut the cord before, and Marlene like is knowing, yeah, this person's telling me some bullshit.
Yeah.
But Marlene goes along with it, and I thought it was very funny because I'm watching the episode. I'm like, okay, obviously lying here. And I
Yeah.
loved the actress, Marlene's actress, is like expression there because it's like it's full of pain because she's getting ready to kill the mom before she knows.
Yeah.
And it's the shock of your best friend just got bit. But also, it's like, do I still care for this baby, even though it might be infected? Like, what do I do? I think about my other fireflies. This baby could go feral, and we never seen a baby clicker before. But
Yeah.
crazier things have happened.
Like we saw the child clicker in episode
True.
5, so we can imagine nothing good will happen.
Exactly. So again, it's dangerous. But then, similar to Ellie at the end of the game, they're both willing to accept a lie because it might be too harmful, too hurtful. And again, they have to do what they have to do to keep moving in that moment. Whatever's safer for you mentally to keep moving forward. And again, I've wrote it down in my notes. Anna's love here is selfish, just like Joel's love is selfish. Her baby in that moment, clicker or not, infected or not, matters more than Marlene and the Fireflies. Because again, the baby could have been infected. But Ellie's saying, I don't care. Basically saying, like, I don't care. Please take care of this baby. Find someone. If it can't be you, find someone to take care of my baby. My love is like far greater than yours at this point. Basically, what she's saying. Is very similar to, I always mention this, one of my favorite anime characters, Pain, in Naruto. One of his major quotes is like, my pain is far greater than yours. Like there are certain characters who feel like their emotions are far greater than yours, and that supersedes like whatever their opposing figure is going through at that moment. It's very selfish. Joel has been very selfish in his desires, and his love and his desires as well. Like Joel's a very selfish character as well. We'll get to the whole suicide part. We'll get to the whole hospital part. Joel's love is very selfish. It's more so how it affects him. Right? Even in chapter 6, when he's getting ready to leave Ellie, he's leaving because his selfish desire is saying, I'm too weak. I can't take care of you. You're better off with Tommy. It's selfish because he's not even considering Ellie's desire towards him. He's more considering his weakness towards her and what he can't do for her. It's more inwardly. Ellie's love, I think it's in the gray. What do you think? I think it's more so in the gray because in part 2, Ellie's love is definitely selfish to a degree. But we also know in part 1, Ellie's also worldly. She tries to save Sam. She, let's go back to save Tess. And actually, I don't know. I think Ellie's love is a mix between selfish and selflessness. She's towing the line, because I think what we're trying to say is like early on she was more outwardly in her love, trying to save Sam, trying to save Tess, and having that burden placed on her. But the events of chapter 1 leave her feeling cold, leave her feeling empty, and you get that loss of innocence. That is like one of the prime arcs of the game, is Ellie's loss of innocence from the beginning of chapter 1 to the end of chapter 9. I keep saying chapter, but episode chapter. The main goal, the main arc for Ellie is that loss of innocence, along with, of course, the connection that's growing between Joel. It's like the hot and cold. It's the beauty is her connection to Joel. She's finally loving somebody. Her biggest love after Riley at this sense is Joel now. But also, it's the darkest side of it is like that loss of innocence, and we really feel that when we cut back to the present. Do you have anything you want to add though before we cut back to the present?
Well, you covered everything thematically. I just like one more like note of just Ash Johnson's portrayal of Anna.
Yeah.
It basically kind of is Ellie to a T. In a lot of ways, like whether it's in regards to the way she speaks, the way she kills the runner, even down to like she's wearing the jacket that Ellie wears in the present time when the journey begins. That's what Ellie is swaddled in.
What, the red jacket?
The green jacket that she starts the journey with in the first episode.
Okay, wow, I didn't realize that. Nice, good costume
Yeah.
design. Okay.
So it's just like seeing all the mannerisms of Ellie herself from the game and also in the show. Just again, like passing that character's essence into this new iteration is just so well done. I adore it.
Again, great guest star role from Ashley. Similar to what I said about Troy. Troy added a lot to James as a character in chapter 8, in terms of like his disassociation with David and what was going on there. And he gets killed off, but it was a very good role. And same thing for Ashley. They both came in, played different roles from the games, and killed it. Ashley, of course, more thematically, but there's only one person that could play Anna, and it was Ashley, and she did an amazing job.
Absolutely. So yeah, we do come back to the present, and it's reversed. Joel and Ellie's relationship from the beginning of this season is reversed. They were bringing this up in the podcast, but it used to be, Joel was a very like closed, cold, cut off person, while Ellie was quite the chatterbox, and now the roles have very much switched, because Ellie has gone through a more recent traumatic experience, while Joel has just finally found like the rekindle of emotion and love for somebody.
Yeah, not to say Joel didn't also go through a hard experience. He nearly died in the winter events. So it's kind of like it's been a rebirth for Joel. It happens a lot in fiction. Have you seen Legend of Korra, by the way?
Only the first half of season 1.
Shoot. Let me think. I'm trying to think of another comparison.
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Think of a character that nearly dies in any anime, TV show. Spoiler alert, Legend of Korra, whatever. Something happens to Korra, she nearly dies, she's fine. She's the main character.
Right.
But it happened in season 2, and then she comes about in a totally different light. She has a new motivation, oomph to her. And I always liked that. And it's like it happens in the water for Korra. And, water is very symbolic of rebirth and of renewal. While in chapter 2, or in Last of Us, it more so happens with the ice. It's frigid, it's cold. We talked about this in the Bad Batch, where it's like you get that feeling of isolation whenever you think about ice and winter and freezing. But Ellie was always there for Joel. And even though he's near death, Ellie was there for him through thick and thin. And he came out of it with a closer connection to Ellie than ever before. And he had to do some brutal things. We saw Dark Joel spark up there in episode 8 with the whole interrogation sequence. I wouldn't want to say the truer side of Joel, because what is the true side of Joel?
It's the raw side of Joel.
It's the raw side of Joel, the disassociation side of Joel, where it's like there's one thing in my mind, that's Ellie, and I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get to her. We see that in chapter 9 with the hospital scene, but we also see it in episode 8 with the interrogation scene. So yeah, Ellie and Joel have both gone through a lot to get to this moment, and we talked about Ellie's loss of innocence throughout this whole arc season, and we see it here evidently with Ellie being very disassociated. One can imagine this was what Joel went through after his first brutal encounter with Sarah, or just like in general. But while Joel's able to like disassociate and eventually found the light in Ellie is just very new to her. She hasn't gone through such a traumatic moment like with David, where she brutally murdered somebody and was nearly killed or worse. And there she was alone. So yeah, she's always struggling. I wanted to ask you though, Nathan, as somebody who played the game, what was your reaction? Do you remember your reaction to getting to this chapter for the first time when you played the game? Because for me, I remember getting to this point in the game, and I'm thinking like, okay, we just defeated David, Yikippure. I was shocked that Ellie was not talking to me as a player. We play as Joel. I was kind of shocked that I'm like, oh wait, Ellie's not cool right now. Is something wrong with Ellie? It took me multiple playthroughs to really understand what Ellie's going through. It's very subtle, not subtle, because it's obvious. Hey, Ellie, I'm talking to you. Ellie, what's going on? It's like it's not subtle, but the explanation for it all isn't really there. One could chalk it up to like, she needs to get killed by David, but I think there's more to it. But as a game player, it was just a lot. It was very different and unique. I really liked it.
Oh yeah. I think my take while I was playing was, obviously, it was a very intense moment, and so when we immediately cut to that time frame, the whole mood is already very somber. So when we just pick up on Ellie's tone and how she's feeling, I think it like clicked very well with me of just understanding that like, yeah, this is that was a bad spot, this is a bad time, in the simplest terms.
Yeah.
So, I don't think it was much of a shock that she was, but I was I was so attached. Like, you play as Joel majority of the game, so yeah, a lot of it's from his point of view, even though you get both their points of view. But we've really built up that relationship with Joel, who we kicked off the whole game with, with the biggest loss in some of all gaming, and basically just spending the whole game rebuilding that connection, not in the sense of like a replacement, but just like as like any parent who has more than one child, so at that point I'm just I'm feeling different elements of like fatherly care for Ellie and worry. Like I'm playing and Joel, he's trying while also being like, oh no, something's wrong, and I'm sitting here and I'm playing, and I'm just thinking like, oh, God, can we help her? Can we do anything? Is there anything to be done? And that's about when we get the giraffe.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's such an interesting scene because, like, from a gameplay perspective, you're so used to like doing the boost, right? And they kind of like, I like how they mimic that in the TV show too. Because in the game, we're in the subway, right? We're in like the bus terminal area, bus stop. But this time we go to like a skyscraper part. And I like how Joel's like cracking jokes, like, yeah, we're gonna bust through, put some dynamite over there, and
he's a dad
that way. Yeah,
he's gone 1,000,000% dad mode.
Yeah, it's just so funny. But like you said, yeah, the hope. Like Joel is sad. He can obviously see it. He's going through dad mode. What can I do to protect this daughter of mine? What can I do? Not a lot he can do. As humans, you gotta process it on your own sometimes. And Ellie's very like similar to Joel, very closed off person. So she's going off on her own unique way. But yeah, this is where we get to the giraffe scene. The giraffe is like nature coming in to help out. Again, I talk about this with Bad Batch and Star Wars all the time, where it's like Mandalorian. The power of nature is like healing, and the giraffe is kind of like a part of nature, and his healing is going to try and help to heal a little bit of Ellie's innocence and recapture that, rekindle the magic. This is a post-apocalyptic world where nature is still thriving, overtaking. A lot of buildings have nature all over it, the moss, the green moss over it. Other post-apocalyptic places do not. Like other worlds, I can't think of. I'm trying to think of another post-apocalyptic game or something like that. But Fallout sometimes, like Fallout, those games. What else? People assume like Avatar. We haven't seen Earth on Avatar, but it's like Earth was ravaged, right? They had to leave the whole planet to go somewhere else. But here it's like nature is overtaking. Nature's reclaiming what it once had. That's why we get the giraffe. It's so powerful. Nature's always going to be healing your characters. And the giraffe scenes here is beautiful. It's so beautiful. It's one of the best moments in the game. It's quiet. It's subtextual. It's overt. It's a lot. And it was funny on the podcast, right? Like they all had different interpretations of what was really going on here. But for me, it was it's always been, I don't know. For me, it wasn't overly sad. I know Ashley and Troy were on the more so like it's a very sad scene for Ellie and for Joel, in terms of like they can visually see that loss of innocence. It's like, oh, it's so fucking cool. It's a different reaction than what Ellie would have reacted to earlier in the game if Giraffe had popped up in like, you know, episode 2 or 3. Ellie would have had a different reaction than Ellie in episode 9 reacting to the Giraffe. And that's what Ashley and Troy were saying. It's like it's very sad what Ellie's going through. It's really encapsulating Ellie's journey up to this point. And as a father figure, Joel is kind of like, man, this is so sad. I don't know. Like Joel's basically saying, like, I want to keep like the innocence that's left in Ellie a little bit, and that's why he gives her the choice later on. But for me, I don't know. It was always very happy, but I thought like I wouldn't say the innocence was gone in my perspective. I would have kind of said like the innocence is still there, kind of like the opposite. Like the innocence is still there. Joel's able to be like, oh, okay, there's still a little bit of happiness there, despite all the darkness in the world, throughout all the violence and darkness. Ellie's still Ellie. Ellie is still able to laugh. She's able to like be one with nature and reclaim her true self. I don't know. There's a lot of interpretations about this scene. What did you think?
Well, yeah, I think similar to you watching, I was just like happy to see her smiling again.
Yeah.
You know, as we see this, and even, you know, when the Giraffe starts to walk away, we get that moment where she's like, oh, come on, we're going to lose it. And she like really just wants to like keep that attachment to this good feeling. And so does Joel in a way. Like he's just kind of like, again, in that father mode, he's just like, all right, okay, let's go. Like this, my kid's happy. Let's keep it moving, which is wonderful. But then, yeah, in this like different, you know, perspective, you know, yeah, obviously, she is different. The journey has changed her. You know, not for the. I mean, I feel like the term like, you know, for the better, for the worse is kind of a gray area in this case, because obviously what she's gone through has been horrific. But you know, I've always found, even in my own experiences, like going through the worst points of my life, I still feel like there is eventual good to come out of it, because you know it shapes you into hopefully a better person than what you once were. Not that, you know, the whole David experience makes you a better person, but just like the whole overarching journey, you know, I feel like they were both pretty closed off people, you know, having lost people, whether it was Sarah or Riley, and the bond that they crafted has only you know, was not only made stronger with them, but it made it possible to care about other people again.
Exactly. Yeah, they're able to care about like the world, and well, not the world, but like care about each other in a way. They found someone to love once again, and they want to keep it for as long as possible. Yeah, I think Joel's looking at it because Joel's not smiling at Ellie, but it's like he's also in awe at the Giraffe, and he's also like, man, this is so beautiful. I want to keep. For me, it's like I want to keep this moment. I want to keep this beautiful moment. I want to have more moments like this.
Yeah.
So that's what he says. Like one of my favorite scenes. Like we can stop. They just traveled halfway across the whole country, basically.
Yeah.
Philly to, you know, Utah, and it's like we can stop. We can keep on going, because for Joel, you know, he has a different arc. Like he doesn't have this burden that Ellie has. He's just saying like, we can stop. And again, the selfish desire. We always talk about Joel. Like we can stop, and we can, you know, go back to Tommy's. And live our life there. I mean, how long have we wanted this for Mando, right? Or like other characters where it's just like you're able to stop. You're able to say, I want to go back. Do what you want to do to live your life to your fullest, your truest self. And I think that is very honest of Joel. It's like I'm happy for Joel. I would love for him and Nelly just to like live their life together, because as a player, as a viewer, I love these two. I love this connection. I don't want anything bad to happen to them. So I sympathize with Joel there. But Ellie, on the other hand, she doesn't feel that way. She did a lot of things, as is revealed. Like she says, like, a lot to do that day, but the things I've done, it can't all be for nothing. And she looks at Joel with a very much a clear intent in her eyes. No matter what happened over there, she has no idea what's going to happen, but no matter what, it can't all be for nothing. The Tess's sacrifice, the death of Sam and Henry, the way I had to kill Riley. There are people across the way, the things I did to David, like I've killed, people have died for me. I've done a lot of things, people have died for me. For all this, it can't all be for nothing. I'm like Joel, who was willing to say it can be for nothing because I found you. It wasn't all for nothing because I gained you, Ellie. That's what he's saying. I gained you. It's not all for nothing for me. For Ellie, yes, she did gain Joel, but for her personal purpose, it can't all be for nothing, and that's why she has to. This is her purpose. I think she feels like her burden for it to be lifted. She has to be the one to heal the world, or in her eyes.
I think like a big one too. Just like the big impact. So like, it can't all be for nothing. I think back to episode 4 and the guy she shot. And he's just like, he's suffering because of her action there. Whether or not she went all the way with it, because Joel obviously finished him, but it's just like I was saying, like the fact that like we lingered on her face from that act when she shot him, like it didn't cut to him, it just cut even closer to her face, and the impact of just harming somebody to that degree, which I think is going to be even more substantial when we explore that descent in future seasons for the revenge plot. But just these different moments, all these causalities of life being taken, which that's kind of like the whole central theme of The Last of Us, is just like life and how
life life is so fleeting. How you process that, how you move forward from that, that's like the crux of the game and of the show, what the show will eventually be, of course.
It's a very true thing of just life in general. Just like we never think about it because we're not constantly putting these scenarios, but the whole thing with The Last of Us is like life, not just yours but everybody else's, is in your hands. And it is your choice with what you do with it, whether you have yours thrive, you help others, you take it from others, whether that's selfishly or in service of others. It's exactly a whole different bag.
It's a mix of a lot of things. It's a gray area, and I think this scene is so special to me because I think even before she had a cure, even before we meet Ellie in episode 1, she already had like this internal burden, tragedy, and that's what makes chapter 7 or whatever, the Riley chapter, so important, because you realize even before she was bit, Ellie had like a close connection to Riley. She was living alone, like she always had like this difficult life, living without a mother figure, living without a parental figure. She had Marlene, but was Marlene really there? Not really, right? Like she was a protector for Ellie. She looked out for her, kind of like a faraway situation. It wasn't really a close bond.
They had brought up in the podcast like Marlene maybe made like the smartest decision in that she gave Ellie to Fedra to be raised by her enemy in a sense, which can work in like two ways, where it's like, well, okay, so you'll be safe because like I'm the outlaw of this world, and then also if the time ever comes where you join my fight, all of their ins and outs, and
oh damn,
yeah, which is a bit more of a selfish strategic war point of view, but I think it's a dual mentality that I think Marlene probably does share.
I never really thought about that part, but yeah, that knowing who Marlene is, that definitely could be a part of like her mindset there. But yeah, definitely, like even before Ellie had a cure, she had like this darker history to her, losing a mother, being the one to kill Riley, her closest loved one. Even before then, I think she was like, I need to find a purpose in my life, because what am I going to be living for? And then she found that in the cure. She found a purpose. She found, it was still a purpose, but also became a heavy burden given everything that happened in season 1. So again, it can't all be for nothing. There has to be a purpose to my life, and I need to fulfill it, because then I'll be able to be happy. Whether that's the right or wrong thing for her to feel, that's how she feels. Because I think Joel would say, like, I can be your purpose. You don't have to have that burden for you. I can be your purpose. We can just have each other, go crazy, live in a ranch, sing, raise sheep by ourselves. Like, you don't have to do all this to feel successful. You don't have to do all this to feel like you have a purpose. But that's how Ellie feels. And I hope people get that. Like, that's how Ellie feels. Her history, before even she had a cure, but definitely after she knew she had a cure, she had this burden, and that became her purpose, or vice versa, a purpose that became a burden.
Yeah.
And it becomes so paramount in her psychology and the way that she wants to live her life, leading into part 2, that I think they're really going to dig into.
Yeah.
With the next episodes.
And ultimately, this comes down, it's like, this isn't, Ellie turning her back on a life with Joel. Because she even says as much, like, I will follow you anywhere.
Yeah, it was so sweet, right? Yeah, I would follow you everywhere. I love you, Joel, basically.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, they said it's her way of saying it without saying it. But, again, with everything she's gone through, she has to do this. Like, she feels it, like, in her soul that this is something that needs to happen. And even with Joel's apprehensiveness of, like, we've faced bad shit every episode basically, that we could just stop, but again, that is the selfishness just as well talking. And so
also, I want to make a comparison to another choice that kind of different. We talked about it in chapter 6, or when Joel gives Ellie that choice of, like, you can stay with Tommy or you can ride with me, at the end of the episode. And then, like, he knew the kind of choice that Ellie was going to make. He knew that she was going to want to come with him, and she makes it instantly. And that's just who Ellie is. She makes these choices instantly. She's very intent. And same thing here. Joel gives Ellie a choice, but it's the opposite. He doesn't know what she's going to say, and he's kind of like semi-disappointed but accepting of the choice that she's going to make. And then things smooth out after this, right? He starts to open up, and he confesses a big dark secret that he had, which I think is definitely new from the game, right? The whole suicide part.
This is
interesting.
And I think, as a viewer of the show, I think what we presumed was him saying that, he was basically fighting back against a guy, but missed. I think we were kind of viewing that him as spinning the truth of the incident with Sarah and the Fedra soldier.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. No.
That was my idea. That's what I thought he was, like, maybe just like his way of, like, kind of, cracking the door open, but not opening it all the way, in a sense. But this just, completely different when you were Joel himself trying to, find the easy way out in this darkest of times.
When you lose the one you love, you instantly go to like, what is my purpose now? Like, again, we keep talking about this. The show's all about like the beauty of life and what happens if that gets taken away. Bill, when he realized he lost Frank or was in the process of losing Frank, he was like, take me out. Because there's no world, take me with you at least. Because there's no world, I'm old, I've lived my life. And there's not going to be nothing else for me. I feel happy, I feel content. But this is darker because Joel at this point, 20 years earlier, when he lost Sarah, he was like in his like 30s. So there was a life ahead, which makes it even more sadder that he was contemplating this suicide. But it's understandable, given that super dark, something all parents shouldn't have to go through. But man, it was just so powerful for me. But the beauty of it was that he was talking about the suicide, this darkest, probably the darkest moment in Joel's life. He missed. He flinched, and that is, in my interpretation, his body saying, "Don't do this. You'll find something to live for." And he does. He says, like, in a roundabout way. I forget that quote. I wish I had it on me. That like, time doesn't heal all wounds.
Yeah, it wasn't time that did it. It
wasn't time that did it. Or because she asked, like, how did you something? He just says, like, oh yeah, like she was like, oh, so the purpose is like time heal all wounds, basically. Yeah. And he's like, no, the purpose of the story isn't that time heal all wounds. It's something else came along, basically. Yeah. Something has come along.
I love you too, Ellie.
Yeah, basically, like, I love you, Ellie. Like, you came into my life at the perfect time, and I'm a different person because of you. And then Ellie, says I love you back by saying, like, well, I'm glad you didn't. I'm glad you didn't kill yourself, basically. It's their roundabout way. They're, Joel and Ellie, unique, individualistic, not sharing too much version of saying, I love you too. I'm happy that you came into my life. It's so sweet, but also tragic. But that's like this world in a nutshell. I just love that scene. And Neil mentioned in the podcast, and I mentioned it when I'm watching it, I'm talking to Jalen, like, at this moment in the game, Joel gives Ellie a photograph of Sarah. Yeah. And he's able to open up about Sarah and what really happened. And that's the gamer's way of saying, like, oh, this is like, Joel's finally able to talk about Sarah. He's actually, the photograph and everything. Ellie gives the photograph to Joel. I think I said it the other way around. But either way, again, the whole Sarah conversation is brought up. In the show sense, it's about suicide, but in the game sense, it's about, like, this is what happened. I'm actually able to talk about it. I've reached that level of love with you, Ellie, that I can share this with you. Because I've only ever shared this with family. And similar to family, right? Like Ellie said in chapter 4, episode 4, why do you keep moving, Joel? And Joel says, you find something to live for. Family, right?
Yeah, you keep moving for family.
You keep moving for family. So the fact that he was only in the game, only able to share that photo, talk about Sarah with family, like Tommy, is him saying, like, you're my family now. I'm able to care for you.
Yeah, you're not cargo here.
You're not cargo.
You're my daughter.
Yeah, and the show's way of doing it was different, but I think in general, again, it's them encapsulating that they've come so far, that they're family, and I'm able to share this dark secret with you. That again, probably you can assume that Tommy knows about that Joel incident as well, being his brother and all, right. And being there during Joel's dark times. So yeah, again, it's just a beautiful moment. That's why I love them. And then, to not get too lovey-dovey, they start talking about jokes. Bring the joke book back, so we don't have to talk about all this.
Good puns. Joel shooting down some fire ones, but okay.
Yeah, there was some good ones there. Yeah.
Meteor, baby. But yeah, it's a wonderful moment, and I think it helps solidify that that feeling for Joel of just like, oh, thank God she's still in there. She's still Ellie,
Yeah.
Because
again, what?
Well, yeah, it's just like the fact that she is like, it's not just a momentary laugh. Like, she's full blown. Like, she's having a hysterical moment. Like, this is a good time. This is the pure Ellie that you've ever seen.
Exactly, and it's very dad of him to be cracking these jokes. Yeah, I loved it. Again, the joke started as a way to like actually shed some layers on their relationship, finally open up a little bit. And now it's used as a way to like increase their bond because the layers have already been shed. So it's just perfect timing for the jokes. But then mid joke, somebody rudely, I guess they didn't like the jokes, Nathan. I guess they hated those puns.
Yeah, aka most of the world, aka the villains of this our world. Yeah, they throw straight up a grenade. He didn't want to ask any questions.
Yeah, shock grenade for sure.
Jesus,
shock smoke. Yeah,
there was an explosion for sure.
Yeah. And then Ellie is taken away. Joel gets knocked out. How rude. Of course, this was taking the place of the whole clicker bloater sequence in the game where they're in their subway tunnel. There's a huge infected coming about, and then there's an underwater sequence. Ellie nearly drowns. Then Joel gets knocked out. Same thing happens here. The whole thing wasn't necessary. But we get to the hospital, and Marlene gives Joel, Nathan, the ultimatum.
Or not
explaining
even
how not even that. Yeah,
there's no choice.
No choice.
Joel crafts a choice. He carves one. Ultimately, but yeah, we have that moment where Joel wakes up and he's given the knowledge that okay, we are able to synthesize a cure by extracting the mutated cordyceps in Ellie, and we'll be able to expand the cure globally. We can do it. This is our shot. We can save the world. 20 years of hell and ruined lives and generations are finally going to be mended. But then it clicks with Joel that cordyceps
grow in the brain.
Grow in the brain with the battery.
Battery goes in the brain. What you mean?
It's Rocky Balboa, borderline. But yeah,
he was raised in hate.
He can't beat the champ. He's the champ. But
Joel loves Rocky movies.
Probably. I could see it.
Me too.
No Curtis and Viper, but yeah, man, it clicks with him. This will kill Ellie. You can't do that. You have to find somebody else. You have to. There is nobody else.
There's nobody else.
But he gets knocked down. He's just like, you don't understand. And that's when we focus back on Marlene feeling that pain in her face, because we just saw she definitely knows. And it's
she understands more than most, right? She was there when Ellie was born. We actually visually saw it. And he killed Anna. Just like Ellie has this burden for like, it can't all be for nothing. Marlene's thinking the same thing. It can't all be for nothing. I had to murder my best friend, Anna. I had to raise Ellie. Basically, kind of. Not really, but she was there. I had to sacrifice fireflies. A lot of them. A lot of people died just to get across the country. To this point, it can't all be for nothing. So yes, Joel, I have to be the one to kill, or I don't have to be the one to kill Ellie, but Ellie has to be the one to die. Oh man. Okay, there's so many important things here. This brought up. This has been just a controversial scene, and the level in general is very controversial. One of the funny things, people are always like, was the cure going to work anyways? And I'm like, that's an interesting question, but I don't think it's appropriate, or I don't think it's even necessary to ask. In a way, like, is the cure going to work? You just got to take it as it is and assume it would be. Yeah. I don't see why not. Because people are like, well, if the cure wasn't going to work in the first place, then Joel did the right thing. The argument is used kind of to support those that like Joel's decision. But again, Joel's decision is neither good nor bad. And I've been explaining this the entire season. And of course, we'll get to part 2 after this discussion. But it's like people kept arguing against Joel's, like, spoiler alert for part 2, of course. But like when Joel perishes in part 2, people are upset about it. They hate Abby. These people still hate Abby. But they're like, Joel never did anything bad, because people who defended Abby were saying, like, Abby's father got killed, and you understand that. But we're like, and Joel did a lot of bad things at the hospital. People are saying, like, well, Joel never did anything bad. Like, if the cure wasn't going to work anyways, then it's like, okay, like, then you have to do what you got to do. Basically, in general, what I'm trying to say is, like, Joel did kill a lot of people. Black and white, that was a bad thing. But the show isn't black and white. The game isn't black and white. The universe isn't black and white. For me, personal experience, I kind of supported Joel's role as a player, and I was on the side of, like, okay, I'll do what I got to do, because I put myself in Joel's shoes there, and I was like, okay, I got to do what I got to do to kill them. It sucks, but Ellie is the one I care about. I got to do what I do. I got to do what I have to do to save Ellie. And I compare this throughout the game, or throughout the series, with Kathleen, where she's like, my brother died and I have to kill Henry. I completely understood what Kathleen was going through. Again, if my brother died, Henry, you're on my shit list. If Ellie was about to die, Fireflies, you're on my shit list. It's like there are these things, or even in previous chapter 8, if I'm the little girl crying because Ellie/Joel killed my dad, then Joel deserves to die. Like, this person took away my dad. Please kill this man. And that's what the other people in David's group are thinking. Like, this guy killed one of our friends. He has to die. It makes sense, right?
Yeah.
I understand that. From their perspective. And that's basically all you really need to do. Do you understand? Good. The end. You can have some conversations about it, of course, because people have different human reactions to everything that's going on. But it's important to understand what they're going through. And that goes all the way back full circle to Marlene. Like, you have to understand what she's going through. And I think part 2 does a great job of even adding to that, because part 2, you get an additional scene of Marlene pleading to John. I hope his name is John. Abby's dad is like, there has to be another way. There has to be another way. And John's like, no, I'm sorry, but no. We have to kill the girl. And John, somebody who has a daughter in Abby, understands that decision. He knows how hard it is. But he's willing to risk this little girl's life to save the world, so his daughter, Abby, and others can have a future. So that's why he's able to kill Elliot. Granted, he has no clue who Elliot is. For him, he's just a girl. But again, I think you can make the comparison. He understands more than most because he's a daughter of his own as well. Part 2 is genius, people. So Marlene is sitting there. It's like, okay, she takes it in. We get those voice recordings in part 1 of the game. We get those voice recordings where she's still struggling with it, but then she's like, well, I got to be the one to talk to Joel, recording off. And then we get this scene where she's finally talking to Joel, saying what Nathan said. The brain is too far gone, blah, blah, blah. She has to go, surgery, blah, blah, blah. So again, I understand Marlene's decision so much. As somebody who was there, I understand Joel's decision. Somebody who traveled along with her, who developed this huge, huge love. He finally found light in the world, and for Joel, that cannot get taken away. That cannot, because he's selfish. His love is selfish, but even more than that, I think mentally, his survival. He failed Sarah. He failed Tess. He failed with Henry and Sam. And when he was looking at those graves of Henry and Sam, he did not want to even ponder what it would be like for Ellie to be in one of those graves. That's why he looked at the graves for so long. He's like, I can't imagine what I would do if Ellie was in one of those, or like, I can't lose another one again. So it comes full circle here, where he's like, I can't lose him. I can't fail. I can't lose her. What would become of me? And also, what would become of her? I just saw her with this giraffe, this huge. She has innocence left in her. She has a whole life ahead of her. I cannot let it get taken away. I know she still has life in her. I know there's a future for her. and for her and me specifically. And Joel can't fathom that future without Ellie. So that's why he does what he has to do. It's just so much complexity here with this decision, with this scene. Man, it's one of the best endings in video game history for me, because there's a lot to go through. So many perspectives: the doctors, the Fireflies, Marlene, Joel, but also, as Marlene says in this conversation, Nathan, what would Ellie want? Or no, actually, I think that's at the end. That's at the end in the garage, where she says, like, "What would Ellie want?"
Yeah.
But in general, at this point, it's just so. It's so like heartbreaking, just as a viewer. I wish I remembered. My reaction was playing this last chapter for the first time, because as a gamer, this is not what you'd expect. But holy shit, it pops out of nowhere that Ellie's about to die. And it's funny because they said, like, when Neil tested this with parents, it's like parents are all like, Joel, do what you gotta do. Gamers younger than parents were just like 50-50 on the decision after the game.
Yeah.
So it's just very funny. It's always going to be controversial, split. It's always going to lead to discussion. But I wish I remember what I went through, because I don't remember what my feeling was. But I think I was more so like, let's go. I have all this ammo. Let's kill these nameless Fireflies. I don't know these fuckers. They got to go. And by they went. I did die a lot in this sequence initially, but I hardly die these days, because it's a fun level. Going through the action, hiding behind everything, unloading on all these Fireflies. It's brutal, but impactful. Very impactful. What do you think about this whole action sequence in the show? Very unique.
Shit. No. No, it's great. I love... You're talking about the shootout, right?
Yes.
The one action scene. Yeah. It's... God, it's so... Like, it's clear Joel's in, like, Terminator mode.
Yep.
What I adore about it is how you really feel like you're in Joel's headspace. Like, the entire external audio of the world, while you can still kind of hear it, is muffled. It's muted, because he has one goal, one function, one command in his brain: save Ellie. Just get there. It doesn't matter how. It doesn't matter what you have to do, what horrible acts you have to do, how relentless you have to be. We have to save her. We have to get there.
Exactly.
And so, he does. It's just like, you see a lot of different shots on his face. He's shut down. He's not. He's almost just not human in that moment. He shoots, and he just picks up more ammo, and he keeps going, and just
people put their guns down.
People put their guns down.
They're like, hey.
And this is explained beautifully in the podcast. Like, later on with the nurses, he doesn't shoot the nurses, like I'm sure you did, Evan.
Every single time.
Goddamn. Do you have a choice?
Bow and arrow for John, a flamethrower for the nurses. Hey,
you're a fucking monster.
You're welcome.
You're a fucking Joel.
Sorry, Abby.
Jesus. This is why we can't have nice Joels.
No.
But yeah, he spares them there, but they even show a specific shot of the guy lowering his gun, and he still kills him because, as they were explaining on the pod, what happens if Joel turns his back and the guy picks up his weapon again, or finds someone else's, and then he goes kills Joel, and then Ellie dies. It's literally just a matter of, I can't risk it. Like, same with Marlene later. Like, there's too high. Just the fact that, like, if the guy sets down his gun, he'll still, either pick it back up or find another gun, and it's not guaranteed, but there is the chance that he'll kill Joel anyway when his back is turned, and then Ellie still dies. It can't risk it. Any possible risk. There's even a 1% chance.
Mistaken as an
absolute certainty.
Yeah. Zack Snyder, the blueprint.
Yeah, even with the last was like 2 years, 3 years before TBS. But yeah, even like that's solidified even more so with Marlene. Just like you just come after her.
Yeah. I thought
So
I agree with you, Nathan. I thought it floored me. Beautiful track. They didn't play this track, I don't think. No.
yeah.
But it was a somber one. It was a somber version of like a normal track that we hear in The Last of Us, and yeah, Joel's associating. I think they mentioned in the podcast one of my favorite westerns as well. They mentioned Unforgiven, the Clint Eastwood, Morgan Freeman classic, 1995. I want to say. I forget when Unforgiven came out.
Haven't seen it,
but it's one of my favorite westerns. We definitely gotta watch it. 92, damn it. Okay.
See, my sister was born.
It's a classic, like, dark character, retired. Somebody wants to pull him back in, and he has to do what he has to do. But it takes that cliche, but adds a lot of subtlety and nuance to it. And Clint Eastwood's great in it. Morgan Freeman's great in it, and the action at the end is really great. They hold off on the action a lot till the very end, and like they said in the podcast, it's very muted and sad. It's not happy.
So someone brought up in regard to, I think, Unforgiven, just like the idea of like he's not the best shot, he's just the calmest shot. And I think that's very true, Joel. Like with all the chaos, a bunch of these soldiers, like as anybody would be, fear for their lives and are scared, like, oh god, we gotta stop this madman. But as we saw in Joel, he's laser focused. He doesn't have anything detracting from how he's going to execute these executions. He's just going.
And I like the way they did it. Like they put the music over the sound of the bullets, right? The bullets became kind of the sound of the bullets, the gunfire came kind of like in the background. It was more so the score was overtaking the scene. And I like that because it really got into Joel's head where it's like everything else is background. I'm really narrowed in on, in Joel's MySpace, I'm really narrowed in on my mission, my goal. So the bullets, it kind of, you're in a different realm at this point. You're in your one shot, one kill, got to do your thing. And yeah, it was very impactful. I think it was a very artistic way to do it because he could have just gone full, shootout in Heat. If anybody has seen Heat, where it's just like bullets, you just hear constant bullets for like 20 minutes during that classic shootout. They could have easily done that, but it was more muted. It was more emotional. It was more character focused with the whole score taking over the scene. I do want to mention, I saw this on Twitter. There's like a shadowy figure running away. Have you seen this tweet?
Yes. They saw this shadowy figure with a ponytail. Some may suggesting that was Abby, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, this person looks like they have a full pack gear and a shotgun on their back. This doesn't look like. Yeah, I don't think this would be Abby as of yet, because
I don't think so either. And people said in comments like, oh, like they already said they're doing changes from part 2 for the game, obviously, but I don't think, and they could do a scene where it's like, because in the game, Abby comes in, I don't know, hours, minutes after Joel leaves. They could do it where Abby's physically there. That'd be an interesting take. But just from the image alone, I don't think that's Abby.
I could definitely see them doing a thing where maybe just like hiding like a hallway, will probably get like a different perspective of the same shootout while Joel's like rampages, so that way Abby gets a chance to see Joel's face physically, and that just gets cemented in her brain to not stop till he finds this guy.
Yeah, it's great. This happens, and I always go back to anime, of course. But there's like the scene in is it Demon Slayer, Attack on Titan, where somebody's in a house. I think it is Demon Slayer. I'm be careful. But it's like there's a scene where somebody's like in a house and a demon attacks this family. This person's family, but they're stuck in the closet and they can't physically move because if you get out, the demon will kill you. But they see it happen and they're like enrages them. It's like, I will kill everybody that gets my way to kill all the demons. It's very similar here. Like if they do it here, where Abby's watching, she sees the person killing her father, killing all these fireflies that she cares about. you feel that, like you visually feel that, and then you can really feel Abby's rage in part 2 whenever they do that, season 2, season 3. So very enticing. But yeah, I don't think that was Abby either. But in general, great action sequence. We get to the more than that, or
well, there is an Abby.
Yeah, there is an Abby. As we get to the finally, we get to the surgery room. Joel, the guy, just like the game, is so great. Picks up the knife. Don't come any further. Pop. It just instantly, like, you're in my way, killed. And then one of the nurses says, like, don't kill us or something along the way. And that's Abby. Laura Bailey is one of the surgeons in the surgery room. I loved this. I did not know this. It was very cool to wake up to.
Yeah, easy to spot. Clear as day.
Clear as day. Yeah. You can easily tell.
I know those eyes.
Yeah.
Maybe if I was like watching recent interviews, maybe I would have. But yeah, just like at a glance, you didn't know. Who would know?
No.
Even Laura Bailey was just like, they won't know, and that's cool. Now everyone knows. Also, I was finding it wild. Just this side thing, like the final podcast with where they had Ashley on with Troy and everybody. The fact that was recorded by the time episode 3 came out, like they got to see these like fairly in advance, at least like a month or so. It's just like, oh my god, just imagine sitting on all this for like 6 weeks.
I thought they did it like the day after the episode. I don't know why I was so naive.
I always figure like, or at least like a couple of days. Like I figured just like, yeah, okay, we've just touched on the VFX. Here we go.
Yeah, but I guess not. But yeah, it's great. Laura Bailey is a great person. I would love for her to have another role in part 2 or in a future season, because she's all in a surgeon mask. Like she could have a different role later on. Nobody would know the difference or even care.
She had a number of roles in the game, actually.
Did she?
Well, that's what they were saying. Like I think she's one of the reporters in the opening of the first game.
Oh wow.
And then she was I forget, they said another one, but Neil was just like so taken aback by like how good she is. She was just like, all right, you're gonna be a main character for sure.
Yeah, Laura's great. She also voices Vax in Legend of Vox Machina. I recommend people watch that show on Amazon Prime. It's great. 2 seasons now right now. Nice. But yeah, Joel kills that, doesn't kill the surgeons, takes Ellie, and not much else to say. It's a very emotional sequence. He's stopping the cure of the world right here. And he takes Ellie, and the game running away from the Fireflies. But here, they're all dead, so nobody's chasing after you. Gets to the elevator. And we're scot-free, Nathan! Woohoo!
We did it. Everything's fine. Ellie doesn't know shit.
Yeah, perfect. No.
Be fine.
The garage opens up. The garage door opens up, and we get to the car, but Marlene is there. Yep. I love the way they edited this just like the game. Craig always says, like, I'm going to do everything just like the game, and he does it here.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so obviously Marlene starts to talk, and then we cut to Joel alone in the truck, and I'm just like, oh, they did it.
It's great. One of my favorite things is what she says is, I think before the cut, is she says, like, there's still a choice to be made here. All about choices, right, Nathan? All about these choices. What are the choices people make for love? The choices that we make for love. That's the theme of the season. And I think she says, like, we made this choice, I made this choice, blah, blah. But what do you think is the choice that Ellie would have made? The choice Ellie would have made. And he looks down at Ellie. And then it cuts.
And I think they said
so important there.
I think they said on the pod that in that moment, like, Joel knows she's right. Like, you see on his face, like, she is right. But he
doesn't care.
He doesn't care. And he can't. He even if he did care, I don't think he physically could, because just how attached he is. He got a second chance at fatherhood, Something that they said very much that like in this world, Joel was made to be a father. It's just it's not one dimensional. It is his core being.
Yeah, I haven't got to that part of the podcast. I literally have like 20 minutes left in the podcast. But I mean, they're right. I was going to say the same thing. Where it's like, even if he does, no, like he does not care. His love is selfish. That's things that they keep saying in the show. So it's like he can't. And I think, despite all that, again for himself, he can't survive without being a father. He can't survive without caring for someone like Ellie. He failed with Sarah. There's no way in hell he will lose again. Just like the Bill and Frank scene, right? Damn all the motherfuckers who get in our way for the people that we protect. There is no world without the ones that we love and protect and care for. And for him, there is no world without Ellie at this point. So it cuts. We get to the van.
We hear some rustling.
Cut to Ellie.
It's like cut to a raccoon. Oh shit!
Raccacoonie.
Yeah, Oscars, baby. But yeah, man. Ellie's just asking like, "Hey, what happened? Hello,
Nani?
Nani? Just hey, what happened? Just like they it turns out there's a lot of kids like you. He lied. I'm reading a novel. Yeah. There's turns out they've been running a lot of tests and there's just it's a dead end. There's no cure.
Yeah.
And then Raiders attacked. Really covering his tracks here.
That was new with the Raiders attacking. I was like, okay, Joel, you're doing too much. Keep your lies simple.
Oh no, I feel like this kind of makes more sense than not saying anything because
it's true, yeah.
Back and it Joel just left like
It does make more sense in the game. And the game is just like that's it. But here is
like some McDonald's.
Yeah, we can stop by halfway. Some Chef Boyardee.
Chef
Boyardee. Raiders attacked. He insinuates that the Raiders killed Marlene. Yeah. Sorry about that.
The fact that he doesn't answer it, it's just like, is Marlene okay? And he's just like, I'm taking us home.
Like,
then
that's when we cut.
What happened?
That's when we cut back to the Marlene scene.
Yeah.
And we see, boom,
right under, literally under Ellie.
Marlene is shot. He tucks Ellie in the car, but he hears her breathing. And, he says, you're always going to be coming back for her.
Yeah. And without hesitation, just boom. Very, similar to Marlene's with Anna. Just, even though there was a hesitation. Well, you could argue it was a hesitation in just the conversation they had. Granted, he was at gunpoint, but you could see Joel was reflecting in that moment.
Exactly.
And I often do wonder, this plagues me, this haunts me at night, Evan. I think, if Joel never heard Marlene, wheeze, maybe he wouldn't have turned back and maybe she'd still be around.
She should have played dead, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I would do, But,
hell yeah.
And Marlene tries to beg for her life, and Joel just solidifies. He covers every track.
Yeah. There's so much there. Where it's like, first off, he's lying to Ellie, just like Anna lied to Marlene, right? We mentioned earlier. Anna lied like the before. Marlene knows. Marlene knows that's a lie. When Joel lies to Ellie, later on we realize that, or you can insinuate that Ellie also might know it's a lie, but she's willing to face a burden. We'll get to that in a second. But also, with the whole Marlene thing, he's basically saying like, my love for Ellie is far greater than your love for the cure, for the world.
Yeah.
Again, my love is far greater. Just like Anna, when Anna says please take care of Ellie, even though Ellie might be infected, like my love for Ellie is greater than the Fireflies in that moment in the prologue. So, and again, Anna and Joel having this very similar protector roles in a sense. Like Anna basically failed in protecting Ellie in a small way because she's dying. Ellie's going to lose a mother. Joel is lying to keep his role as a father, to keep that role in Ellie's life moving forward. A big passing of the torch from Anna to Joel there. I also want to mention something because I looked at my notes and I forgot to mention it. Because we're kind of moving on from Marlene, who has tragically died. Mm-hmm. But I think Marlene will come back in part 2, season 2.
Because Marlene will return in Endgame.
Exactly. Because there's a great scene between Marlene and the doctor again that I mentioned, where she's basically you see even more humanity from Marlene, where she's like, I cannot do this. I promised her mama would take care of her, but then she gets convinced by the doctor. So I think that's going to be a fun scene to see. And expanded upon, of course. But I also wrote my notes. Marlene is utilitarian. They mentioned in the podcast, like she had to break some eggs. And I think this is very important because, and I made this mental note in my notes, because Nathan always go back to Star Wars. Marlene says in episode 1, or one of the Fireflies says, like, this is a rebellion. And Marlene replies, like, no, this isn't a rebellion. We're getting our asses kicked, basically. But just that notion of them being a rebellion, her being a leader, I compare this to, like, Princess Leia in a sense, who are both utilitarian. Like, they will do what they can to save what they love, the rebellion, save the galaxy from the Empire, from Fedra in Marlene's way. Firefly's a rebellion, Fedra's the Empire in this sense. But where Marlene's willing to sacrifice people like Ellie, sacrifice other Fireflies, Leia was never like that. Leia was able to say, like, there is love. I'm not going to sacrifice other rebellion leaders, rebellion people, just to fight against the Empire. Leia is always saying, like, there's always a choice. And I think the interesting thing for Marlene was, like, she's telling Joel there's a choice. You can still turn back. She's telling Joel there's a choice. But then for Marlene, she's still stuck in her way saying there is no choice. Ellie has to die. So it's very interesting, very gray here, where Marlene's saying, hey, Joel, there's a choice. But for me, there is no choice. So it's about her convincing herself there is no choice because the path that she set herself down on. In terms of, like, I have to give this girl a cure, or I have to kill this girl to get a cure. That's my choice. There is no other choice. Everybody else, hey, there is a choice if it, like, helps my choice, basically, for Joel, or for her to convince Joel. So yeah, just in general, very interesting rebellion Star Wars comparison with Marlene and Leia. I don't think Marlene and Leia would have got along, because again, Marlene's much more gotta break some eggs, and Leia's like, there's other options to do what we do to save the things we love.
Leia said, I'm vegan.
Again, Leia's very caring about the world, but also, like, if Han was in danger, she's willing to. Okay. If Han was in danger, she's willing to, like, do what she can to save Han over the rebellion sometimes. So it's very interesting, very great.
Return of the Jedi, baby.
Exactly. So we get to the end of the game, and that's pretty much it. Whereas, like, we get Joel and Ellie talking about, like, their lives, and like, yeah, they're what?
We're all good, right?
Yeah, we're all good, right? Like, he's reminiscing about what they can do in the future and stuff like that. But then Ellie stops him.
Yeah. There's another, because I don't think you got to this point in the podcast yet.
Oh, okay.
Joel starts kind of, like, talking about, the different, like, worldviews and stuff. And at a certain point, Ellie just kind of tunes out. She's not, and this was the thing that, like, they were saying to Belle Ramsey playing it on set. Like, at this point, like, you're not listening to a single word he's saying. All that's running through your brain is just, like, do I ask him? Do I say it? Do I confront him about this? Do I say it? Do I say it? Do I say it? And then she just cuts him off at a point. And it's just like, swear to me. Swear to me, everything you told me about the Fireflies is true. And Pedro's delivery here.
He just, like, he's surprised by it, but he's also ready for it, right?
Yeah, he's just like, the way he says, I swear, is just, it's it's not shaky like a lie, but it's also not firm like a truth. Even so, riding that gray area, and even they were saying in the podcast, just like he doesn't, he doesn't say it with like such conviction, emotion, just like I swear, or
He doesn't
anything
grab her
like
by the
that.
shoulders. It's like, I swear to you.
Yeah, he
No.
says, they said he lies just as all humans lie. It just happens. He just said it. Just I swear. It just flows out.
It flows out, exactly. I was gonna say that too. Yeah.
And in that moment, they all had a lot of different perspective of whether or not Ellie does or doesn't believe him in this moment. But one that was found interesting is just like a point of view for her being that I I don't believe you, because Ellie has a really good bullshit detector. That's what Ashley Johnson said. It's just like, I don't believe you, but you're telling me it's true. So it's like, I want to believe you. Maybe I'm even just choosing to believe you. I'm not sure, but definitely at this point, their entire relationship has shifted in a way.
Interesting. Wait, that was Ashley's interpretation.
That was a mix of the different ones, but
Did any of them say like Ellie did believe Joel?
well, they initially turned to Ashley herself, and I think she was saying it's neither are concrete whether she believes or not. But then she did sort of start going into all the reasons why she doesn't.
I was so, as a player, I was always so, I love the ending, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I was always so conflicted because I think Ellie doesn't believe Joel. Especially in part 2 when she has to retrace her steps.
Mm-hmm. I felt like when I was
I
feel like when I was viewing part 2, there's definitely like elements like just the inherent Joel playing the guitar for her scene. She feels very disconnected because it's probably very fresh after the events of the first game at that point. But you can see like she still cares about Joel, and so she's still very like happy about like the idea of them bonding. And even like later in the future, they were like geared up to watch movies and stuff. And like in the big flashback of the whole museum exploration with the dinosaur and the rocket ship and everything, I think that just enters the purest moment that probably rekindles their bond the most, and just like solidifies it, like them back to that moment until Joel and Ellie do have that conversation that fractures their relationship.
Yeah, because even, that's a good point. I think part 2 is basically them saying like Ellie kind of, even if she believes him, maybe she doesn't believe him, Ellie is probably, even her, she's not sure. But the bigger part is like, this was her purpose, and for that to be taken away from her, whether Joel did it or whatever, in the end she failed. Mm-hmm. Ellie in her mind failed. What is her purpose anymore? She feels that's why she feels empty. Mm-hmm. And even with the museum scene, even with her birthday scene, mm-hmm. they get through the museum, the boar attacks them, and what's on the walls? Fireflies. It was all a lie. And the words firefly, the words lie that was painted on the wall, even though it's completely unrelated to what Ellie's predicament. The words lie, the words firefly immediately bring her back to like, wait a second. Was Joel lying to me? I kind of think he was. I have to ask him about this moment again. I have to get these answers myself, and that's like that's the arc for part 2.
Yeah. I think there's a big element of the truth is too painful, so you choose to believe what's
exactly
easier.
It's so hard.
There's there's a real life experience I had, which is this is gonna feel so out of left field because it involves Santa Claus. Growing up, spoilers for Santa Claus. He's not real. Now I have encountered there was a big significant thing I encountered in my youth, which was yeah, okay. Sorry, I was disconnected for a second. I remember there was this one Christmas, or one birthday rather, because my birthday and Christmas are really close. I was asking for this big Lego set, this big Endor Lego set. Really wanted it. I was like, I will give up any Christmas and birthday present. I just want that because $100.
Wait, how much was it?
Hello.
Yeah, how much was it?
It was $100.
100. Wow.
100 for the Battle of Endor, baby. I needed it. And my dad was just like, no, maybe another time, not today. And then so one day I was like hanging around a truck. It was like a normal, like just like singular front seat truck that had like a little space behind the seat that you could store stuff. And one day I was just like in the tailgate and I looked through the window and I saw there was a there was that Lego set I requested, and I was like, oh, no way. And then later Christmas came around and I got the present, but the tag was addressed from Santa. So that started to sow the seed of doubt of just like, that's
That's kind of sus.
A little sus. It didn't go to question. I think I may have like called some family to say about it, and then I think they were trying to spin some bullshit of just like, oh yeah, well sometimes Santa has to drop off some stuff early because it is a big world. This is a big roundabout way of getting to like eventually a few years later. I liked to play into the lie of Santa. I think it was a thing of like me also choosing to believe, and then when the point was revealed, just like I was sat down more professionally to just be like, all right, just to acknowledge you because of what your age you're at. There is not a Santa Claus, and like I knew that, but it's just the shattering of the illusion that is what really like broke me in that moment. Like, yes, okay, that's fine, like that's not the situation, but it's just the fact that it being like so cemented and just like quote unquote a loss of innocence, if you will, it's just a very impactful thing. So reflecting on Ellie's journey here, like having that doubt instilled and choosing to live in the bliss before it's ultimately shattered. Impactful.
Very impactful. Yeah, she's choosing to accept Joel's lie again, whether she believes it or even doesn't. It's like I'm choosing to accept it either way, because that's the illusion, like you said, that she wants to set up for herself. Yeah. And Joel again is willing to lie again to protect the things that he loves, just like Anna's willing to lie in the beginning. People are willing to lie to protect the things you love, and that's hard. And I think for Ellie, I'm glad that they really pushed that decision or that whole scene to be the crux of part 2, where it's like there's two things here that are happening to her. She lost her purpose, and Joel lied to her. So there's two things that are be the focus of part 2. Joel's lie to her and how that affects their relationship, and Joel lost her Ellie lost her purpose in life, which was to be the cure for people. It can't all be for nothing. Well, it ended up being for nothing, at least in her eyes, because there was no cure, at least that's what Joel told her. So how does that affect her arc? What does she move forward with? What is her purpose? Before she can even discover what her new purpose is in this new world, a couple years later, Joel passes away. So then she has to discover, okay, wow, I don't even get to apologize. What's my new purpose? Yeah, revenge. I have to kill. Like, right? That's my purpose, right? The instinctual thing goes for her.
Yeah, I think a big thing is that in that grand ideal of like, she could have saved the world, right? But she didn't get a chance to. But it shouldn't be discounted that she did save one person. She saved Joel.
Yes.
She saved his soul. And then next thing you know, Abby killed that one person I was able to save.
Yeah.
Whether it was my choice or not, I did save him. I wasn't all for nothing. Even in like the night before, she goes back to Joel to try to reconnect.
Yes.
And it's looking to be a brighter tomorrow. But but little did we know the sun.
The best scene in Last of Us history.
Setting.
Yeah, exactly. That's the best scene in Last of Us history, by the way. That scene
I adore it.
The coffee. I bawled my eyes out. I was a wreck.
No wonder they make it the finale, which again is the thing they were saying in the podcast for this episode, is like why not reveal like in episode 2 or something of Ellie's birth, or the fact that Joel tried to kill himself. And Craig Mazin was saying because it hurts more. To put it,
they could have easily revealed all the whole Joel and Ellie. They get apart, or they separate from each other, and then Ellie tries to rekindle that at the beginning of the game. But make it at the end, even after she decides to save Abby, even after she goes home, she gets on the guitar, and then we get the final scene, and then we get back to the rant, and then we're done. But like that final flashback sequence, even internally as a player, I'm like, there has to be another scene, right? There has to be another scene. And then the game gives it to me. They answered my prayers, and it's the best scene in the entire franchise. I love that scene to death. There's like, okay. Yeah. He repeats what she said. Like, in terms of okay. He did like, okay. I would like that very much. He starts crying a little bit. I can't wait. Season 3 probably, but still. So Nathan, that's a wrap on season 1.
It is.
Fantastic season. The whole question of decisions and impact, I think is so crucial. I think they have a lot of places they want to go. They already confirmed Bella's coming back, Pedro's coming back for part 2.
For a little bit.
Film later this year. I think for a lot, yeah.
Well, it's funny because that funny interview where
Bella,
I said Belly. So it's Pedro calls me. She was saying, I got to spend time with so and so Pedro for a little bit. And I was like, oh God, don't do this to me.
She's teasing. I definitely think they'll do all of. I could be dead wrong, but I think they'll do all of season 2 with Pedro, and then start season 3 with that death.
Well, I was wondering.
That's how I would do it, at least.
That's the thing I was like going to question, because I was like wondering what you would think about the cliffhanger of part 2 being the death of Joel.
It could work. I wouldn't be upset. I'll be upset as a viewer, but it could work.
Or even like, because we've seen like
it depends, because like if you want to end it with the death, then what you're saying for the arc of season 2 is like, what then? I think it works better as a beginning, as like a beginning of Ellie's arc of pain and her overcoming that pain as an arc for a season. Because if you want to end it, then you're saying your arc is like incomplete. I don't know. Because what are you going to be building towards in season 2? If you're going to be, are you building towards death? How does that work thematically and narratively? So I don't know. Yeah. Actually, now that I think about it, I think I would prefer again season 3. But if they do it, give me at the end, and they give me a good reason, I would accept it. So yeah.
Another thing I was wondering is like, do you think, because they tend to shake up the adaptation for the betterment of the narrative?
For sure.
Do you think they will showcase Abby's past in the same way of the game, or do you think we would get any glimpse of it at all prior to Joel's death?
Prior to Joel's death, no. Right? Abby has to come across as a new character for us. Sure. I don't want to learn more about Abby before we get to the scene.
But I could also see. Well, yeah, no, maybe not necessarily just her. Maybe not like her living situation like we see in the game, but maybe we could get a little glimpse of her at the hospital, younger, and then when Joel obliviously meets her and is helping her, and she's just like constantly staring at, which is one of my favorite details of the game, where she's just kind of like lingering, like, she's like, that's him.
She's frozen. Yeah.
Then it could create even more suspenseful dread to the audience, just like, oh God.
That's interesting. Do you want to make the audience go through something completely different than the gamers? That's what I'm worried about and interested about for part 2. Gamers were like, who is this person I'm playing as? Why am I playing as this person? This is
I'm playing as
different.
Joel's murderer, you know.
Yeah, you play as a murderer before it even happens. That's yeah. It's such a difficult feeling, even for part two. It's like I don't hate it, I don't like it, but it's ballsy, it's risky, because you're trying to survive as Abby against a horde of clickers. I think they did confirm, by the way, that there are going to be more clickers and stuff in season 2 and 3. Either way, I don't think that mattered either way.
Right.
For part 1, but yeah, man, they have to make some interesting decisions. Things that are definitely going to get expanded upon, in my opinion. Tommy's role in season 2, Tommy's role in part 2 of the game. I think we're going to see a lot of what Tommy does to the Fireflies, the murderers, his perspective when he first gets to Seattle. I think, by the way, that Seattle, I think as a setting will stay. That'd be crazy if they moved to like a different city. You know, Kansas City and Philadelphia, Kansas City and Pittsburgh didn't really matter. But I think Seattle as a location really mattered in terms of like the location of the wharf and the wolves, as in essence, like they live near the water. Just the whole setting kind of important.
Yeah,
you can still film in fucking Canada. We don't give a shit. But like you can still make it Seattle, I think.
For sure. And like again, like the just the geographical location is it's so far removed from Jackson.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, get more. But yeah, I think the beauty of part 2, season 2, is going to be exploring those 5 years that we didn't get to see as a gamer. I think that's what everybody's asking for, right?
Yeah, I can also see them expanding even more so. Dina and her relationship with Ellie.
Dina, her relationship with Jesse.
Jesse's
of course, Ellie as well, all in there. Yeah, I think season 2's arc is going to be like, was what this person told me a lie? That's going to be the crux of season 2.
Yeah,
those missions, those more bonding with Joel and Ellie. Ellie's bonding with the people of Jackson, but also the crux, the emotional journey is going to be, was what this person told me is a lie? Was it true? Was it false? What's my new purpose now? That's going to be the arc for season 2. Then heading into season 3, it's going to be like, oh my gosh, he's taken away from me now. Where do I go from here? So I think definitely part 2 is going to be that bonding, that 5 years that we missed. That way you can keep Ellie looking like, or Bella looking like Bella, but then growing. Because I think by season 3 we'll be at 2026 or 7 at that point. That's 5 years from now, 4 years from now. So Bella would have grown into the Ellie that we see in part 2.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so it's definitely interesting. And definitely, there's a lot of things that can go. Again, those 5-year time skip. We're gonna get those flashback with the dinosaurs, with the space. I think that'll happen in season 2. Even though they happen at different times in part 2. So part 2, they're gonna be taking different pieces.
Yeah.
From part 2 into season 2 and 3. I do not. Like I can't imagine what they have to go through in terms of like picking what's to include in season 2, what to include in season 3. Where do you put things? Because I think the whole part when Abby's like pointing the gun at Ellie is like, I could have killed you. I spared your life, and you zoom in on Abby, then boom, you play for Abby for the second half of the game. That cut is so important. Do they do that for the show? Oh my gosh, I'm just so nervous because there's certain things only a game is able to accomplish. But as a viewer, do you watch half a season with Abby, dude? What are they gonna do? It's gonna be interesting. I'm so excited.
That's why I like wondered if they would because a lot of loud people online were very thrown off just from the jump of what Abby does, and then we spending half the game. If maybe they decide to restructure it to where we are like co-following Abby and Ellie until we meet at that big point, and then boom, that breaks into the journey where Ellie's going on the revenge plot, but then also she's openly taking out all these people that we know have such intense backstories and are also they're their own people. They're protecting their families as well.
Exactly, they're protecting their own families. Everybody has a family. Everybody has somebody they're connected to. So yeah, again, Craig did confirm that this is going to be more than one season. That's why we keep saying season 2 and season 3. I don't think it goes beyond that. I think good 3 seasons. But then again, if Last of Us, if Naughty Dog, because Neil, I forget where, but I saw on Twitter today that Neil confirmed that they are working on something. He said people keep saying we're working on Last of Us Part 3, but we picked something that we're very passionate about, and that's our next project. It could be Part 3. It could be a new IP. There's always been that rumor that Naughty Dog is doing that sci-fi IP. I don't know. But Naughty Dog is going to be working on something. And if it is Part 3, then we could be in for something more than 3 seasons. Because then Part 3 will be a 4th season. So, or a 5th season, 4 and 5. You never know. How long is the show going to go?
I want it. Just don't, as long as you keep Neil on and we don't pass the subject.
Oh God, yeah. Keep Craig and Neil have to be on this season,
yeah. And then it was funny. There was a point in the podcast where Ashley was bringing up the whole idea of like stepping on the fungal branches and detecting the horde and stuff. And she was like, "Oh man, like I wish I could play that." And then passing over to Neil. Like he started saying, "Well, that's interesting because we were like looking to take that," and I was like, "Oh, 3?" And then he was like, and then expand on it in season 2, and I was like, "Fuck!" I thought you were gonna confirm the 3rd game.
Yeah, definitely. That whole fungi I think is impossible for game. Ashley could say that, but it's like if I'm a game player and I have to tiptoe now, that'd be awful.
I mean, that feels like a grounded mode function if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, and the person that plays grounded mode on everything, every playthrough, I would hate that. But there's probably more to say. I can't remember now. I don't know. I love the series. I'm so excited for the future. We're probably going to get season 2 probably 2025, I would think, early 2025. I don't think it would be next year.
I think I heard the music they used when Joel's carrying Ellie out. I think it's the same music that was used in the Bill and Frank episode.
Oh. On the Nature of Daylight? No.
No. Well, no.
But yeah, I think I know what you mean. That score, that track. I don't know track names, but yeah, I think it goes close to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love doing these weekly recaps with you.
Yeah. What do we got now? We're Secret Invasion.
Secret Invasion, baby. We'll find something.
Yeah.
But yeah. My brother's waiting for me. But
all right.
But yeah, we gotta go. But I love this show so much. This is my favorite game ever. Part 2 is also one of my favorite narratives ever. I love these characters. I love these stories. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Craig. Thank you, HBO, for giving us some fantastic adaptation. I couldn't be more happier. This exceeded my expectations. The writing was just phenomenal. The pacing was great, contrary to public opinion. I thought the pacing was great. The pacing of their relationship from episode 1 to episode 9 floored me. They kept all the integral scenes. They expanded on a ton of stuff that I loved, adding religion to David, adding Anna to the beginning of this episode.
All of Bill and Frank.
All of Bill and Frank, the whole Kathleen, Kansas City of it all. Oh my gosh, this game, this show, it's beautiful. It's heartbreaking, but it's beautiful. I love it so much, and this was so much fun.
I'm so scared about not their adaptation, but just like having to watch these characters' adaptation that I now love go through what's to come.
It's gonna be crazy, and I think we're all in. Even as gamers, we're gonna be in for a lot of new material because that 5-year time span between season 1 and 2, or part 1 and part 2. Is a lot of open ground. We get bits and pieces, of course, with the dinosaur scene, with the Tommy helping out Ellie. We see the relationship fall apart, but there's a lot of stuff that we don't see. So I'm in for the journey. I'm in for the long haul.
Yeah, it's like I was saying. We see in part 2 how the community comes together and builds such a ginormous shrine at Joel's house when he's gone. I very much want to see his impact on the community in this adaptation.
see him get the house, right? See him get the house. See him
Yeah.
come inside.
Which I
Become
which I
part of the community.
which I think the house he was staying at was of a similar structure, so that's probably is going to be his house. But yeah,
Mhm.
living in it, yeah, I guess he doesn't have that photo of Sarah, does he?
No. But maybe
But
Tommy gives it to him in season 2, so we'll see.
totally possible. I would love that. But yeah,
Yeah.
right there.
Find me on Twitter at HarrisEV9. I finally started reading one of my favorite manga, Haikyuu. I'm reading that. Spring break starts for me at the end of this week. I think I'm gonna finally start Star Wars Jedi Battle Scars at the end of this week.
Mhm.
The prologue to Jedi Survivor coming out next month. I can't wait for spring break. These kids are killing me. I need a break. I'm also gonna start hopefully Horizon Forbidden West on the PS5 this week as well. And yeah, we got tomorrow John Wick Chapter 2, my personal favorite, Nathan's personal favorite. You get a good old Comet coming in to save the day, right?
Suicide Squad's common.
Exactly. So we're gonna be doing that, and then of course Mandalorian, Bad Batch this week as well as those episodes ramp up too.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can follow me at _TimeBlazer, making a show called Time Blazer. You get it. You please check it out. Check out the live stream me and Evan did, covering what that is if you're intrigued for more. Superhero with time travel. That's not as, maybe as poppy as you might expect. Bit more emotional. And now that I've experienced something like The Last of Us, I'm probably gonna influence more pain in it. We'll see.
Oh boy.
But yeah, if you enjoyed this podcast, make sure you hit the like button, subscribing already, ring the bell so you don't miss future Last of Us coverage. And that being said, hope you have a great day, and we'll catch you guys next time.